What's up, legend? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tommy Z from New South Wales, and I've created this channel to share my evolving freediving and spearfishing journey as an absolute noob. It's awesome that there's a lot of content out there of all the cool stuff, but I'm here to share my evolving journey as I get into this sport myself, and hopefully it inspires some of you out there as well. As I'm sure you know, interacting with the content will help me grow, so if you enjoy it or want to see more, chuck a like, comment and subscribe to my channel or follow me on all other social media platforms. This video is an insight into my Wave 1 freediving course that was completed in Nelson Bay with the legends from Salty Pilgrims freediving. If you're interested in getting into freediving or spearfishing or looking to develop your skills in either, I highly recommend doing a course with them. I could not recommend them more. Check them out and give them a follow on Instagrams at Salty Pilgrims Freediving, or check out their website by simply googling Salty Pilgrims. Let's get into it. We out here, Little Beach, Nelson Bay, doing our Wave 1 freediving course with the legends from Salty Pilgrims. Cracker looking day, a little bit heavy on the wind, but we'll see how we go. Going to go up to 10 meters today. I've been past it before, but it's all about learning how to do it properly, safely, rather than just raw dogging it through life, being a danger to yourself or someone else. So enjoy the process. So here we are, just swimming out to go and get some depth to do some line training. We'd already spent a few hours in the classroom in the morning going over some theory and a lot about equalization, just body relaxation practices and heaps more. To be honest, diving seems pretty straightforward, and I know I thought the same thing, but little did I know that you actually shouldn't have any pain in your ears or your head when you are diving. I dove to 12 meters before but had significant pain, and there's actually a lot more to it than you think, especially to prevent causing yourself serious injury. So I highly recommend investing in a freediving course. Here our legend instructor Jono is just giving us some tips on how to do a efficient duck dive, and a duck dive is an important part because it's going to be a part of your dive that can either cost you a lot of energy or save you a lot of energy, so you have a better dive. Here I am just practicing over by myself. Now I apologize for some of the angles in the video to come. A lot of these angles were simply the GoPro just like strapped to my hip floating around. There were some good angles, a lot of bad angles, but it's quite difficult to record whilst you are trying to train your brain to learn a whole lot of new things at once. So this is me diving down to 10 meters for the very first time with absolutely no pain in my ears whatsoever, which was amazing. Made it to the 10 meter mark real comfortably with free immersion, pulling yourself down by the rope. I respect your ears, and the wind noise was just too great for this clip to put into the video, but this is just me talking about how after my dive I'd been practicing some more duck dives and I got down really comfortable with no pain in my ears at 10 meters. Now I'm going to teach you a couple of freediving terms you may hear. There is constant weight, which is diving and kicking with your legs, and then there is free immersion, which means going up and down a line, pulling yourself with your hands and no kicking at all. In the background footage you can see me getting down to 10 meters with ease and celebrating. Now I'm going to talk about the course that I did. It was a Molchanov's Wave 1 freediving certification, and the reason I recommend you do this, as well as the people you dive with have some kind of certification under their belt, is because rescuing is actually a part in order to get this ticket basically. So you know that if something happens to your buddy or even to you whilst you are out there, you have that peace of mind that they can potentially save your life. So you can see the open water requirements for this course is constant weight and free immersion to at least 12 meters. Now you'll notice the B on the end. What the B means is basically bifins, which means one flipper on each foot. So you also need to do constant weight bifins buddying between 6 and 10 meters, as well as rescuing someone from at least 6 meters. Now, believe it or not, the thing that's not going to hold you back is how long you can hold your breath. One of the biggest things that holds a lot of people back in diving and getting deep is their ability to equalize, and this happened as well to the rest of the people in my course. But what equalizing is basically as you go deeper in the water, the pressure on you increases, and this is where you get the pain in your head, in your ears, and you need to basically equalize the pressure within your body and outside your body. And here's our diving instructor Jono flexing, blowing some sick as bubble rings. Now here's me doing a breathe up before a dive, and again the GoPro is just strapped to my hip, floating about. I have no idea where it's going to end up. As you are learning, there is so many things that you are trying to train your brain, and holding the GoPro was not a priority on this day, but I promise in future the angles and the footage will get a lot better. So breathing up before a dive, why it is important. It is important to relax your body, because the more relaxed you are, the less oxygen you will utilize on your dive, which means you will be able to dive longer and potentially deeper. When you are breathing up for a dive, you should never change your natural breathing. You should just have your natural breath in and out and focus on relaxing your body. If you breathe faster, especially breathing out more air than you normally would, you can lower your carbon dioxide levels, and basically, in a nutshell, carbon dioxide is what signals you to breathe. So if you get rid of a lot of this carbon dioxide before your dive, you may not get that urge to breathe, and this is where people can black out. Now here I hold my breath and I go for my duck dive, and I'll be honest, the biggest thing that holds me back in diving is the mental aspect, the mental side of things. My brain goes, if I go down quicker, I'll be able to get deeper. It's not about conserving energy, it's just about the whole mental thing of needing to get back to the surface on a single breath. And most of the time, by the time I get to the bottom and I feel that urge to breathe, I go, holy shit, I still need to get back to the top on this breath. And I get back to the top and I still have so much air left in the tank. You could see that I just paused on the bottom briefly just to get my body used to the idea that I can actually stay down a little bit longer. And by the time I get to the top, the breath hold time to get down to 12 meters was only about 36 seconds. So it's not long at all. And here I'm just talking with my instructor about how that dive felt, how it went, and just receiving some tips and tricks. And after this, we pretty much headed over to the pool for some more training. Bam, here we are at the local pool, ready to go through our pool training. Here's me checking out the GoPro angle before we get into our first task, the breath hold. Now, our instructor, Jono, is just walking us through how we're going to go through this process, how we're going to do it safely and buddy one another. To get your certification for this course, there is also pool requirements, and they are on the screen. So the first thing is a 1.5 minute static breath hold, which basically means holding your breath for 1.5 minutes with your face in the water. 30-meter dynamic bifin, so that means swimming for 30 meters with one flipper on each foot on a single breath, and swimming 200 meters unassisted non-stop. So for the 1.5 minute breath hold, we took it in turns buddying one another. Here you can see me breathing up, relaxing, doing a body scan, just slowly relaxing muscle by muscle in my body. So my body is as relaxed as possible, meaning technically you should be able to get a longer breath hold. Now for the breath holding part, your first breath hold or your first dive of the day is never going to be as good as your second or your third, and we'll talk about that in another video. But what we did for this part of the training was basically do some breath holds, have a quick pause interval, and then get back into it. And I think we did about 4 or 5 rounds of breath holds, and by the end of it we were easily able to surpass a 2-minute breath hold. Now on this breath hold I get to about 1 minute and 20 before I pull my head up, and I still probably could have pushed more, but we weren't going for our max breath hold on our first hold. Now also you will be able to hold your breath longer in water than you can on land because of a few factors. Number one, when your face is submerged in the water and you are holding your breath, we have what is called the mammalian dive reflex, which basically slows your body down and conserves oxygen. The other factor is you are pretty much weightless in this situation. You don't have gravity really pushing down on you, so you are a lot more relaxed than you are on land. Now, like I said, the purpose of these breath holds weren't to get our maximum time. The biggest purpose of these are to really get used to the contractions and to what your body does and the muscle spasms that you may get as you push past the urge to breathe and hold your breath. And this is where doing breath holding training on land can really help, because you get your body used to the feelings of getting used to that urge to breathe and understanding that you still have a lot more oxygen in the tank, and getting comfortable with those feelings and the ability to push through it still within safe levels. The day before this diving course, I did a breath hold attempt on land, and I got 1.5 minutes, and that was absolutely pushing it before my body said, nah, that's it, I cannot go any longer. But I downloaded this stamina app, and just getting used to that urge to breathe, I was able to, within just a few short sessions, get to holding my breath for 3 minutes on land. So I highly recommend checking out that app. Now this was the second last breath hold for the day, and by now we had gotten used to what the contractions had kind of felt like and understood that we can push further past it because we do have that supervision. So I get to about 2 minutes and 5 seconds in this breath hold, and I was absolutely blown away considering the day before I struggled to get 1 minute 30. As our rounds of breath holds went on, we had a shorter and shorter time to recover in between, but our breath holds were still getting longer and longer, and in between these two breaths, we only had about 15 seconds to recover before diving into this final breath. Now on this final breath hold, I was stoked to have gotten 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Absolutely smashed what I thought I would get, and to be honest, I probably could have pushed a little bit more, but it was just a good session to get used to these feelings of contractions, to learn how long you can actually hold your breath. Obviously, you also have to take into consideration that you are laying as still as possible, not wasting any energy by creating any movement really. So it is going to be completely different holding your breath in this circumstance in comparison to out in the water and actually diving down a line. But it's still the whole practice of learning that you can go a little bit deeper because you can hold your breath longer than you actually think. It is a little bit uncomfortable, but you can do it. Something I'm still struggling to navigate though is like how far past that point is too long, and obviously blackout is a serious thing and something that we hopefully will never experience.
Yeah. And I was just like, when you said 2 minutes, I'm like, no way.
Yeah, the 2 minutes came quick.
I was like, what the hell? And I was like, I'm going to make it 2:30 here. I'm like, trying to push. I'm trying to push hard, and then I was like, I can feel myself going.
When did your contractions kick in?
Oh, mine kicked in at like before 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like they'd started at like a minute 30 or something.
Yeah.
I was like gonna like just push through that.
The best thing to do with contractions is to not try and fight them.
Yeah.
Like, don't try and like tempt around them.
I just have to grasp.
Let them roll.
I found getting into the squat position just made it like I wanted to come up so much quicker because I don't know, just the contraction of everything.
It seemed the end.
Yeah, I reckon I would have been better off if I just stayed laying out rather than coming into the squat position.
Every bit of diving we do, heads down, okay? Whether it's on the line out with open water.
Now, I'm not going to give away all their secrets and tips and tricks, but what we're about to do here in the pool is basically weighting ourselves for neutral buoyancy. So when we are in the middle of the water column, so between the floor and the top of the water, we are basically as neutrally buoyant as possible and floating. And here you can see Jono demonstrating what it should look like for us. Now, it's pretty common sense that if you are hitting the bottom, you should remove some weight, or if you're floating to the top, like this Sheila in the clip, then you should add some weight, and you'll watch on the next clip of how much better she floats in the middle of the water column. Now, after I got myself weighted correctly, I thought I'd take you guys for a spin with the GoPro. Now is my time to partner my buddy Joel, and one of the jobs of us being a partner in this process is not only there for safety and to make sure, if they do pass out or black out, but here we are holding them just close enough to the edge so their hands aren't touching them, it's not distracting them, but if they need to reach out and grab the wall, they can with ease because they are right there. Now remember, never dive alone and never do any breath holding practices or training in any circumstance unless you have someone there for safety, and not just anyone, someone that actually has an idea of how to rescue you if things do go wrong. Now here's me miring my flippers as Jono basically explains how to be as efficient as possible in the water, and basically telling us that when we are kicking, we want to visualize a ring around us and keeping that ring as small as possible. And here's a demonstration from the pro himself, taking a full breath, kicking off the wall, having your head tucked in and kicking as basically as small as possible, keeping that ring as tight as possible. And when you are done, going to the wall and leaning on the wall for safety in the case that you do black out. Now, one thing that most of us actually struggled with was staying in the middle of the water column. When you have your head tucked down and the floor is basically zooming past you and your brain can't really comprehend it, it is quite hard to judge the distance. Now, just recapping, the requirement for this certification is getting 30 meters on a single breath. Here's me sussing the GoPro angle before I go off for my kick, and you'll notice that I kick very hard, very fast, and very wide. This is because the whole mental side of things, just like on the line training, I think in my head that if I go quicker, I don't have to hold my breath as long. So if I exert more energy and do it quicker, I'll be able to go further, when in fact it is a lot less efficient. But again, this is one of the mental sides of diving. You'll see I make it to the end of the pool here, which is 50 meters in total. So I smashed the requirements, and the only thing that kept me going, because I was so gassed, was I saw the shadows on the floor of the pool of the flags near the end of the pool. So I knew I was right near the end, so I just kept going that little bit more. Now here's me paddling back in the other lane whilst one of our other crew members go for their run, and you'll notice that they do a lot better job of me in terms of keeping their fins nice and small, their kicks nice and small, and being a lot more relaxed rather than just trying to hoof it to the end. So here at the pool, we've done our static breath holds. The whole crew smashed the 2 minute mark on it all, and then now we're just doing our basically swimming in the water. We're gonna get at least 30 meters. Just made it to 50 meters. I think our other member just made it to the 50 as well, and we're fucking killing it, all thanks to the instructor. We also went through rescue procedures of how to rescue one another in a pool if they do black out, so enjoy the humour as we do it.
Rescue!
And then of course we swapped. First things first in this procedure is obviously getting their face out of the water and then taking their mask off. And when we take their mask off, then you want to blow in their face and call their name, because what this does is basically tell their body that it's okay, you're back in the air now, your face is in the water, you can breathe. Now that we'd finished all our pool requirements, it was back to the ocean for another open water session. Alright, we out here, Dave 2. Alright, we out here, day 2, Salty Pilgrims Wave 1 freediving course. Mint conditions, mint fucking water. Let's go! Just went through our last bit of theory and some thoracic stretching exercises, and we're heading out in a jiffy for our last dive session, where we're going to hit 20 meters. Let's go. Now here we are just paddling out for our last line training session. I was confident I was going to get 20 meters after the ease of yesterday, and here's a jellyfish, and then here is some sick as flippers that one of our crew members had, just showing the sharks who the real apex predator in the ocean are. Now here's me doing a breathe up for one of my dives, and again I apologise for the GoPro footage, it's just floating on my hip again as there is so much to concentrate on. But here I'm just basically relaxing my body, relaxing my breathing, and slowly scanning through my body, relaxing muscle by muscle where possible. Now I'm going to play this dive in half speed just so I can walk you through basically what's going in my mind and what I am doing throughout the dive. Now, one of the amazing learnings from the pool training session was the fact that if you take in too much of a breath, you won't be able to relax as much and you'll actually dive worse. So taking a smaller breath can help. So now I've just held my breath, I've kicked forward, I've pre-equalized on the surface and done my duck dive. I've grabbed hold of the rope and the other hand is on my face, on my nose, equalizing before that ear pain kicks in. There's my instructor Jono on the surface about to follow me down, and you'll notice on the rope there is black tape marks. These tape marks are at every 5 meters, just as increments. There's the first one indicating I've made it to 5 meters. The focus of today was just to make it down to 12 meters, have a little hold on the bottom to train your body. Okay, if I can hold on the bottom, I can actually go down maybe a little bit deeper on the next run. So I make it down to the bottom here, and I've been practicing basically turning around on the dives, and you'll notice that I just sit on the bottom for a little bit and hold my breath to get comfortable with the feeling and the feeling of the depth and the pressure down here. Now I'll be honest, the mental panic had kind of set in, like you've got that urge to breathe by this stage and you're like, looking up you can see I still have this whole way to go on this single breath. So I kick off the floor and I start heading back up. You'll see by the end of this dive that the total dive time was only about 44 seconds, which is obviously less than half of yesterday's pool training session. But it just goes to show how different the environment can affect you and the pressure of it all. Now, I didn't get much more footage of this day, but basically a lot of our crew, or all of our crew, started having a lot more equalization problems on the second day because we were just fatigued from the first day, myself included. And some of the other dives I didn't get on film, but I was confident now because I'd made it down to 12 meters, so I got my instructor Jono to film me. So here's me just breathing up on the surface for a dive that really didn't go as planned. On both of the days out of the whole group, I had the least problems with equalization, so I felt quite fortunate, but this dive really didn't go to plan. You'll see me kick off a bit weirdly, and then I remembered that I was doing free immersion, so I kind of stopped mid-kick here. Again, just noticing the black tape marks on the rope, so that being the 5 meter mark, I make it to about 5 meters and I simply could not go anymore. I was struggling to equalize just from the fatigue of the day before, and I shook my head at Jono. And just to train my body that it wasn't actually the breath hold, I went up a couple meters where I was more comfortable and just sat there for a while, got used to obviously holding your breath and getting used to what those contractions may feel like in this situation. You'll notice me shaking my head in disappointment. The video does get cut off, but after this segment here, I go up a few more meters to right under the float, so I'm right near the surface, to just push myself a little bit further into those contractions and those feelings, whilst I do have the safety of my instructor Jono around me. And I ended up having a dive of about 1 minute and 30 seconds. After a couple more attempts on the last attempt of the day, I did make it down to 12 meters, pulling myself down the rope for free immersion, passing all of the requirements for the course, so I was absolutely stoked. Now again, I respect your ears, and the audio from this section was just too bad to put in and could not isolate the voice well enough, but this is just me paddling back to shore, wrapping up the Wave 1 diving session, and talking about how I had sinus problems today, mainly in my left eyebrow, which really prohibited me. I was mainly getting to about 6 meters for most of the dives on the day, but then on the very last dive, I was able to push through it. There was still a little bit of pain by the time I got to 12 meters, but I did get to 12 meters free immersion, passing all the requirements for the course. So that pretty much wraps up this video as a complete noob doing a Wave 1 freediving course. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight and a little bit of inspiration as well. Like I said, I could not recommend Salty Pilgrims anymore. I have done 3 trips and courses with them at this stage and have another one coming up in a few days. And simply, it was just a flawless experience. So go and check them out. If you are looking at doing a course, it is worth the travel from wherever you are in Australia, and it's a beautiful place to do it as well. They also run overseas trips and retreats and trainings as well. If you enjoyed the content, please do some kind of interaction with the video, subscribe for heaps more content to come, and go and follow me on other social media platforms as well. I post a whole lot more short form content on those platforms with a whole lot more of my daily kind of stuff as well, including getting out diving multiple times a week. Obviously making these videos takes a lot of time, so these will not be out as frequently, but stay posted, and I've got heaps more content on the other platforms. The links to the rest of my social media and Salty Pilgrim's social media website will be in the description. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learnt a thing or two, and let's get deep.